Jack Della Maddalena vs. Islam Makhachev might just be one of the most compelling matchups we've seen on paper in a long time. Honestly, I think this fight is even more fascinating than the one people wanted against Ilia Topuria. Not because Topuria isn't elite, he is. But this right here is a clash between a dominant lightweight champion and a surging, dangerous welterweight. It's not a featherweight moving up. It's a full-blown 170-pounder with knockout power, elite boxing, and solid takedown defense, going up against a guy many believe is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. Islam has made it clear. He's a big guy for 155, and everyone knows he could make the jump to welterweight easily. And Jackie's no monster welterweight either. He's not some huge, shredded, oversized 170. He's average-sized for the division, which makes the physical disparity not as wide as it might seem at first glance. So now, you've got two guys about the same height, roughly the same reach, potentially within 5 to 10 pounds of each other. On fight night, both are technical, composed, and elite in their own domains. Here's where it gets interesting. Jack's ability to stuff takedowns and scramble back to his feet was fully tested. Against Bilal Mohammada, guy who literally trains with Islam and knows the Dagestani style inside and out. Jack didn't dominate that fight, but he showed that he can survive and thrive in deep waters against someone with a grinding wrestling style. And if he could handle Bilal's pressure, the question becomes, can he elevate to that next level and deal with the guy who reportedly ragdolls Bilal in the gym? The odds are already out, and Islam Makhachev is sitting as a -200 favorite. Meanwhile, Jack Della Maddalena is a +170 underdog, which is intriguing given that Jack is the reigning welterweight champion. But it speaks to how highly people view Islam's skills. He's seen as the guy, the technical genius, the one who can dismantle anyone across 2 weight classes. Now, let's talk fight night weights. Islam reportedly weighed 178 pounds when he fought Volkanovski. Jack weighed in around 189 when he faced Gilbert Burns. So on fight night, we're probably looking at Islam in the mid-180s and Jack just shy of 190. That's not a massive size difference. And given how Islam has grown into his frame, it won't be shocking if he's right there physically with Jack. This won't be a David versus Goliath situation. It'll be much closer than most expect. But will that extra size impact Islam's gas tank? That's a real question. Jack proved he can go 5 hard rounds in his war with Bella. He faded slightly in the 5th, as expected in his first 5-rounder. But he was still throwing volume, still pressing the action, still dangerous until the final bell. If Islam doesn't carry his cardio to 170 the same way he does at 155, that could be the opening Jack needs. Because make no mistake, Jack's not trying to edge out a decision here. He's going to be in Islam's face, boxing sharp, mixing levels, looking to do damage and steal momentum. Technically, this matchup is such a puzzle. Jack's striking is fluid. He can switch stances, mid-combo, go orthodox, or southpaw, depending on the read, and he adjusts based on what the opponent gives him. If he mirrors Islam's southpaw stance by going orthodox, that opens up his jab and boxing combinations. But if he chooses to go southpaw himself, that's when he starts throwing rear leg high kicks, left straights down the pipe, and that clean lead hook over Islam's right hand. Of course, this is Islam Makhachev we're talking about. He's not going to stand there and box with Jack for 25 minutes. He's going to wrestle. He's going to shoot takedowns off Jack's entries. And if Jack is standing orthodox, that lead leg is vulnerable to Islam's signature single leg entries. If Jack is in southpaw, Islam might switch momentarily to hit the same single just from a different angle, like he did against Dustin Poirier. But here's the thing about Islam's wrestling. It's not just about completing the takedown. It's about disrupting rhythm. He'll shoot just to break your flow, like we saw against Dustin. Getting into a groove on the feet, Islam would change levels, grab a leg, clinch up, and even if he didn't get the takedown, he'd reposition the fight. And that's the trick. It's not always about ground control. Sometimes it's about control of space. Look at how Islam uses those failed takedown attempts. Even if the opponent sprawls, Islam ends up dictating where the fight happens. Heel, disengage, and suddenly you're with your back to the fence. You've gone from being in the center of the octagon to being one mistake away from being trapped against the cage, which is exactly where Islam wants you. So Jack's mission won't just be to stop the takedown be to stop the positional shift that comes with it. And luckily for him, he's actually really good at that. He digs underhooks quickly. He's a strong scrambler. And one thing he does that's critical, he throws body shots and elbows inside the clinch. That could be huge here. Islam loves the Muay Thai plum, especially when he gets pressed against the cage. It's one of his most underappreciated tools. He uses it to control posture, to sneak in knees, but more importantly, to walk his opponent off the fence and reset the fight where he wants it. We've seen this exact sequence play out multiple times. He grabs the plum, walks you off the cage, and suddenly he's back in the driver's seat. But against Jack, that might be risky. Jack will rip to the body. He'll fire elbows. He'll make that clinch a dangerous place to hang out in. And Jack's defensive awareness is sharp. Against Bellator, he would jab and then slip or duck immediately to avoid the counter or the reactive shot. Islam might try to time that duck with a knee or a high kick, especially if he notices Jack repeating the pattern. That's something Dustin did to jab and duck, but Islam didn't fully capitalize on it. Now that he's seen it work again through Jack's fight with Bellator, you can bet he'll be more prepared for it. Another weapon to keep an eye on is Islam's check right hook. That's his go-to counter when opponents press forward. He leans out, throws the hook, resets. He threw a specific combo against Bellator that could actually work as a counter to Islam's hook. We even saw Dustin try the same thing. Feint the jab, bait the hook, then return with a shovel uppercut from the rear side. Jack has the hands and the timing to make that work. But again, this is about layers. Jack can't just counter once. He needs to be able to adjust mid-fight, round by round. Islam is incredibly good at problem solving. If Jack's hurting him with body shots in the clinch, Islam's going to try to change up the grips. If Jack's stuffing takedowns with underhooks, Islam's going to start chaining trips and throws. This fight is going to be high-level chess, and that's what makes it so exciting. You've got a relentless, high-Q grappler going up against a composed, technical striker who knows how to survive on the ground and punish you on the feet. Both are durable. Both are well-conditioned. Jack wins. It's going to be because he keeps Islam on the outside, picks him apart with precision, and makes him pay in the clinch. If Islam wins, it's going to be because he controls the pacing, wins the positional battles, and makes Jack second-guess his own rhythm. This is one of those fights where every second counts. Every small adjustment matters. So let me know what you guys think. Can Jack shock the world and become the man to stop Islam's reign across two divisions? Or will Islam show once again why he's not just the king at 155, but maybe the best fighter on the planet, period? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next one. One of Jack Della Madalena's most underrated tools is his ability to draw out counter shots and punish them. Against Bellator, he used this sneaky mechanic he'd fake his power hand by pulling it back behind the opposite shoulder to generate momentum, then whip out a sharp lead hook. It's subtle, but extremely effective, especially when an opponent is looking to time their own check hook like Islam often does. That lead hook becomes a trap, baiting the check right and returning with something harder, tighter, and more punishing. But Islam isn't just some basic counterpuncher. He's shown real depth with his head movement and defensive boxing, especially in his more recent fights. One of the best examples, his bout with Dustin Poirier. Go back and watch that sequence Islam lands to crisp check right hooks, followed by a straight left to cap off the combo. It's not just the offense, though, it's the flow. He slips, rolls, and counters all in one motion. At one point, Islam leans forward and slightly to his right with a high guard, reading Dustin's jab. Dustin throws a feeler jab just to gauge the range, and Islam pulls away from it, then rolls off to the outside, making Dustin miss completely. Next, he dips low, almost baiting Dustin into thinking it's a level change. And Dustin reacts instinctively in pushing away, expecting a takedown. But Islam wasn't shooting. He was launching another right hook. Then comes the elbow. Frame. Islam raises his right elbow high to guard his head while he repositions. Dustin throws another jab, which forces Islam to adjust his head movement again. But here's the genius. Islam rolls to his right, and Dustin tries to intercept with a left uppercut. But Islam continues the roll, rises up, and fires off a right hook up top while narrowly slipping the uppercut. They both partially connect, but Islam immediately rotates to his right and circles back toward the center of the octagon, showing elite-level ring generalship. It's subtle things like that where he's not just landing shots, but manipulating space, managing the cage, and staying defensively sound even in close quarters. Islam even throws in some trash talk. Here says something to Dustin, then blocks the next jab, reads the left hand, loading up, and simply glides out of range while delivering another clean check right hook with his left hand held high. Textbook defense. Another example. Islam ducks under a left overhand, slipping his head outside Dustin's power side. He loads up his own right hand with that same shift of weight and rips a nasty uppercut to the body. He follows it up with a left upstairs and barely misses a right hook as Dustin retreats. This isn't just wrestler boxing. This is layered, timed, reactive striking. There's intelligence behind everything. At one point, Dustin's throwing feints, trying to pull a reaction, and Islam responds by stepping off center, ducking under, and getting close enough to tie up the collar grip. And when he gets that single collar, he's immediately working offense, looping the left over the top or sneaking in knees from the clinch. There's another moment where Islam slips inside a jab as Dustin hops in to land his left hand. But Islam's reaction stuns him. He counters with a right uppercut as Dustin closes in, then leans out and follows with a right hook. Instinctively, he slips again and enters the clinch. It's those transitions, slip, counter, clinch, that make him so dangerous. He uses your offense as a bridge into his own. And when you compare this with Bella's defense, it's night and day. Bella mostly leans back or ducks under punches. His head movement is basic, one-dimensional. Islam, he's flowing through. Combinations, rolling with punches, countering off slips, and chaining his offense with defensive head movement. That's a much harder puzzle for someone like Jack to solve. So, for Jack Della Maddalena, this fight will be significantly tougher than his battle with Belal. The openings will be fewer, the timing more complex, and the punishment for missing will be harsher. But that doesn't mean Jack is out of it. There are still clear areas where Jack can exploit Islam. When Islam initiates the striking, when he tries to be first, Dustin had success interrupting him with counter jabs. That's one of the few things that really slowed Islam's rhythm, just planting a stiff jab down the pipe as soon as Islam starts to engage. It keeps Islam from building striking momentum. The only issue, Islam can always shoot under it. That's what makes him so dangerous. But if Jack throws the jab, first especially from South Pete, becomes more of a positional test. Islam usually chooses to move away from those jabs, rather than counter them head-on. So Jack has to force him backwards, feint the jab to create reactions, and get him to shift his stance so Jack can start reading those exit routes. One possible answer, the double jab into the straight. Not perfect, but effective, especially from the southpaw stance. Dustin used this with moderate success because it forces Islam to commit to head movement one direction, then intercept him with a straight. Islam will still pivot from center line and move to the outside of the left hand, but with Jack's ability to adjust angles mid-combo, it's a different threat entirely. That's the X factor. Jack's footwork, the way he cuts angles mid-combination. He doesn't just throw 1 to 2 south down the pipe heel, hop off to his right and line up a shovel hook, then pivot left and throw the rear straight. That kind of movement is rare, and it's something Islam doesn't face often. In fact, very few of Islam's opponents have ever shown consistent angle cutting in their striking. Most are linear. Jack isn't. We saw that clearly in the 5th round against Belal. Jack stunned him with a sharp left hand, then used lateral movement to stay just out of range. That type of angle work not only creates new striking lanes, but also completely neutralizes certain takedown entries. If Jack's stepping off as Islam shoots, Islam has to either fully redirect the takedown mid-shot or bail on it entirely. And that's when Jack can intercept with short elbows, uppercuts, or force a reset. Islam is a far better chain wrestler than Belal, though. If one shot fails, he'll transition seamlessly into the next. But Jack's anti-wrestling trained under. Craig Jones has shown promise. Craig helped prepare Volkanovski for Islam, and Volk still lost a round entirely due to grappling. So now, Craig gets a second shot, a third look at Islam through a new lens. The adjustments he makes for Jack could be critical. We saw what Bella looked like after leveling up his striking for Jack. Arguably, he looked better than he ever had on the feet. And while some may argue Bella didn't evolve overall, it's hard to ignore how much sharper he looked standing. But he made a key mistake. He waited too long to wrestle. That game plan flaw may have cost him. If Islam smells danger on the feet, you can be sure he won't make the same mistake. He'll shoot early. He'll clinch early. He'll try to smother Jack before he gets going. This fight is going to be incredibly difficult for Jack, but he's absolutely up for the challenge. He's never fought someone as good as Islam, but Islam's also never fought someone quite like Jack. The footwork, the angles, the boxing, this is a different kind of problem. And like Teddy Atlas once said, when a fighter becomes champion, they improve by 30%. We've seen that time and time again. Islam's evolves since becoming champ. He's added new tools. He's more confident, more composed, but so has Jack. He's leveled up after every test, and this might be his final exam. So, the question remains, can Jack Della Maddalena become the man to stop Islam's dominance? Or will Islam remind the world why many consider him the best fighter on the planet? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives only here on Knock On. Catch you in the next one.